Welcome to BoCo Summit, the Rural Broadband Technology Solutions Summit 2018. We wish to thank our sponsors for helping to create a path for fast, affordable connections. This BoCo Summit session is entitled The State of Botetourt and Broadband, presented by Ken McFadyen, Botetourt County Broadband Advisory Commission member and Director of Economic Development for Botetourt County.
Fadden. Ken is our Director of Economic Development. I ran into Ken very early in this process. Got to know Ken basically by way of what we were just talking about. Ken has been a huge advocate of this project, of this mission. As well, Ken, through his day job, has served our county very well in bringing in new business, bringing in new folks. So without further, thank you, Ken.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for investing in Botetourt County and investing in our future. Walter, I'm reminded by your comments that Microsoft started on a garage floor. And so we'll take that image with us today and tomorrow in thinking about how we'll better serve this community with an essential piece of infrastructure. Arlene asked me as part of the Broadband Summit to bring you information about the state of broadband and the state of Botetourt County to kick off our conversations, and I'm happy to do that. It's an honor to do that. And there we go. There's no question that Botetourt County is growing rapidly. Our job growth between 2010 and 2017 has outpaced that of the Roanoke Valley by a margin of roughly 3-to-1 in terms of percentage growth, with the strongest growth in healthcare, retail, real estate, and wholesale trade. In 2016, we had roughly 17,000 people employed in Botetourt County of a population of roughly 33,000 to 34,000. Those are folks working within Botetourt County and commuting out. And when I look at the data, we also have roughly 2,000 residents of Botetourt County who are self-employed, who the IRS call non-employers. And these are the folks who we don't know a lot about them, but we know that likely they are working from home in home offices that require broadband connectivity. Our economy is very much dependent upon broadband connectivity. There's just no question about that. And I think these next 2 days is about fleshing out how we can further enable our economy to prosper by building onto this one critical piece of infrastructure. Of the county's 845 employers, approximately 80% employ 10 or fewer workers. And we are seeking ways to actively do more for our small businesses to help them form, grow, thrive in our local economy. Oftentimes when I meet with our small business operators as well as with our large manufacturers, employers, broadband connectivity is simply a given. It's what we need. And oftentimes what I find in the conversations that I have with folks, particularly our small business operators who work from home, is that oftentimes they don't have the connectivity that they need. And I'll hit on a few examples of that later in these comments. And with Botetourt County's growth comes demand. Approximately $165 million in new investments and 1,000 new jobs have been announced in this community from 2016 to date. With that comes additional responsibility to further strengthen our infrastructure and to provide for this community. A commonality between large primary employers, the Lawrence Transportations and the Eldors and the Ballast Points, and our small businesses and entrepreneurs is broadband availability. In 2016, we conducted a focus group with a group of young professionals to talk about Botetourt County and why they would want to live here, or maybe why they don't live here. They told us three things. For Botetourt County's growth, three things are critical. Three assets must be developed. One is greenways. Two is workforce housing. Any idea about the third? Broadband connectivity. Absolutely. The county is actively working to develop a greenway network with the Roanoke Valley, connecting to this very park here at Greenfield. Last March of 2017, we held a housing summit after conducting a housing study that called for approximately 1,000 new apartment rental units to be built in Botetourt County. And since that time, in March of 2017, the Planning Board and Board of Supervisors have received and approved proposals for over 500 more units of housing. Not all apartments, some of it single family, but we've met roughly half the demand that we called for housing in a year's time. And that's rather impressive. And so that enabled us and encouraged us to then think about a broadband study. There's an abundance of literature out there that demonstrates the critical importance of broadband to the success of our communities and to our global economy. Eldor USA is having their grand opening next week. And just quite frankly, they would not be here without broadband connectivity. We have several companies in Botetourt County that are based elsewhere globally. I think it's 10 other countries. These companies depend upon that connectivity to do business. They depend upon that connectivity to provide the jobs that we have in this community and the prosperity that we enjoy. We're very fortunate at this summit to have Dr. Nicole Turner-Lee with Brookings in attendance. Recently, she published a photo essay of how broadband availability, or the lack of it, is affecting one community not far from here, Stanton, Virginia. Among Dr. Turner-Lee's statements in her essay, she writes that the Federal Communications Commission reports that it would cost $40 billion to bring broadband access to 98% of the country. Expanding broadband access to rural areas would be even more expensive given the vast topography and far proximity from telecommunications facilities. So the challenge that we present ourselves to enhance our existing telecommunications infrastructure and to deliver service to under and unserved areas is immense. There's no question about that. This metric that Dr. Turner-Lee references from the FCC is a testament to that. But it's also inasmuch an indication of what happened with rural electrification in the 1930s, interstates in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Broadband connectivity is our infrastructure challenge for the 21st century. And I thought as I read Dr. Turner-Long's essay that this particular quote was meaningful. People without digital access are not only limited in their participation in the digital economy, but also unable to complete important and often required tasks, such as homework and business transactions. You know, we often don't see what we're not looking for, and it's fair to say that our internet service providers and our citizens and our businesses need an objective assessment of the state of broadband in Botetourt County. It's one thing to say, yeah, we need that, we don't have enough of it. It's another to quantify and to objectively approach the subject. And so with Eddy Communications and the Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority, last year, we completed this study to identify the real gaps in our internet service needs in Botetourt. With a 14% response rate of businesses and households, of business responses, approximately 60% expressed general satisfaction with internet service options in terms of choices among providers. That's good, and we need to acknowledge and recognize that. Approximately 35% of these businesses rated their internet service as good, and less than 12%, or just under 12%, rated their service as excellent. Roughly half of business respondents rated their service as good enough. I used to use that term, good enough, in school, and it didn't get me very far. So roughly half of business respondents rated their service as good enough or actually poor. Approximately 1/3 identified internet speed as a factor to address. Most businesses indicated that faster and more reliable internet would not only lead to hiring more employees, however, 20% did not rule it out as a possibility. 16% of business respondents stated that they had no internet service availability at their place of business. 16% of our business respondents did not have access to internet at their place of business. And this is where I'm talking about those IRS non-employers, those folks who work from home, who we don't know a lot about. We only know what the IRS will let us know. These folks likely work from home and they don't have service, or at least 16% of them. I think the survey respondents and their comments speak for themselves as well, and these are all contained within the study, and we need to make this study, if it's not already available on the site, it will be. It is on our county website. My career depends upon fast internet. I'm considering a move for that reason. That is an economic developer's nightmare. There it is, folks. That's what I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning worried about. Nearly all residential respondents have a cell phone, and 3/4 indicated that their cell phone is their primary phone, as it is for my wife and myself. Roughly 30% use their mobile phone as a hotspot to access the internet. 40% of residential respondents indicated that their internet service, not via a hotspot, needs improvement, and 30% indicated it is satisfactory. Coincidentally, last week I received a phone call from a gentleman named David, and he runs a national consulting firm, Acceleration Point, and they specialize in advising pharmaceutical companies on how to best manage their organizations and increase their profit margins. He has a home office, and they also have offices in Roanoke. He does a lot of his business from home. And what he was calling me about was that he didn't have broadband availability at home. Again, we have a need, and we have a business proposition that suffers for the lack of being able to provide that connectivity. I'm pleased to say that after contacting the provider that is closest to serving this residence, that they're getting together and having a discussion about what it will take to actually provide the service. And so we're thankful for our internet service providers, and we are here to help them to extend and expand their coverage. Another example, Barbara Kolb is here. She runs and operates Blue Ridge Vineyard in the northern part of the county. Agribusiness is as dependent upon broadband connectivity as anything else. Barbara has talked about needing to deploy a telemetry system, a SCADA system, to be able to monitor the health of her grapes. This is a real business decision in a rural setting, in a very beautiful rural setting. But nonetheless, it's an issue for Barbara not having that broadband connectivity. So it's not just a business proposition. When asked what they use the internet to accomplish, 53% of our survey's residential respondents indicated for school or job training. Roughly 10% indicated for leisure streaming or gaming. And I think we need to be honest about that. This is not just leisure use. About 10% of our residential respondents said, yeah, we use it for leisure, which I think we all can and should. But at the same time, we have very real propositions about wealth that are in play here. Education and job training. Roughly half of residential respondents indicated that a telework option with fast, reliable internet service is possible, but not without it. As we learn more about what is being called the gig economy, again, dependent upon broadband access. More than half of residential respondents in the survey tested their home internet speed for us as part of the survey. Roughly 69% of residential respondents did not have broadband speed as defined by the FCC. Having connectivity and having the appropriate level of speed is another matter. Service availability, speed, and reliability appears uneven throughout Botetourt County. Addressing this challenge requires partnerships and cooperation, partnerships that we are forging with our incumbents, with Lumos, with Shentel, with others, with cooperatives, Mid-Atlantic Broadband Cooperative, with the Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority. We're thankful to them and their involvement here today and tomorrow and for sponsoring this event, but we're also hopeful that our future with our internet service providers will be fruitful for this community, because it very much needs to be. And I'm going to close, and I think I may have identified, but I will not divulge the identity of this survey respondent. As I was reading through our broadband survey, this particular quote really resonated with me, and I was looking for something to capture the essence of what it is that we're about. This survey respondent's perspective: our future is more important than any other consideration. In order for young people to prosper and have the ability to stay and find gainful employment, Botetourt needs cutting-edge technology available to all of the county.
Now we want to hear from you. Email us bocosummit@botetourtva.gov. Engage with us on our journey. We give a special thanks to our community volunteers, and special thanks goes to these organizations. Again, thank you, our sponsors, for helping us to create a path for fast, affordable connections. BoCo Summit, the Rural Broadband Technology Solutions Summit, is presented by Botetourt County of Virginia.